Okay, there seems to be a normal, a normal feature, standard feature, like normally, like on the settings that actually, like makes it like, like virtually a no-brainer, to actually transfer and move like a internal storage to the SD card. And it's kind of like, oh my God, it's like a monopolized, maze now. It's kind of like, you got to be kidding me. Some like, fascination with like, total idiocracy. Like, oh God, there's like something to figure out. It must be a sheer genius and an act of like willpower to like maintain, the discipline and structure that has led to a more educational level of like, God, will it ever end? Yeah, great. Okay, great. Anyway, back to the deal. So like I'm trying to get set up here, and I'm trying to like get to where like it'll be like a natural like distribution of presenting the factor here. I don't know if I'm gonna actually do it like with this view. I might change a little bit of a location to maybe get a better view. I don't know if that's going to be good enough. I might do a little bit more here in a little bit. I'm already kind of like getting kind of like to where I don't know if it's going to be as productive and as fast as really. It's already like 10 after 10 right now. So in any case, yeah. So like I was saying a little earlier before I got kind of like the signal there that the internal storage had been like maxed and in need of like what was supposed to be automatically like a internal storage managing factor that would automatically transfer an overload beyond a max limit to the SD card. Well, welcome to Pearland, right? Or is it like is it just like me on the face there, right? Okay, yeah. Anyway, so like I'm trying to like get the room set up and find good locations where everything's at. Like I have a other stuff that's going to be in here, and I'm trying to maximize and get it arranged and not be stressed through the whole deal. But anyway, so in the sense of just for the lighting, just so I'll kind of like know what the view is for like the way it looks now. Once again, I'm getting to the point to where actually setting what I'm going to decide if it's going to be like a stored file, whether it'll be multiple storage files, whether it be a flash drive or a integrated cloud, or maybe just a cloud storage, or SD once again, or kept as an archive and internal if there's I'm going to need to hopefully maintain that there might be a little bit more storage as an archive beyond the internal storage and still be like kind of like internal storage but not really an SD card likewise. And anyway, yeah, so anyway, so once again, I'm trying to get a broad range. I'm trying to decide how many like songs as a standard reference that really, truthfully, I've mentioned it before. Seriously, I mean, throughout my entire life, like on practicing the drums, I mean, really simply and easily, it's truthfully virtually automatic, more than 3,000 songs, truthfully. But, it's been such a long, slow process of actually getting to this point, and ridiculously, I mean, I'm so ready to, get into my original music that really, I mean, there seems to be like issues that really shouldn't be a factor of like any deterring factor that might alter the direction and attention. Like normally, like I'm really going to do it, and hopefully there won't be like any contesting factors that would like, present maybe if some All-American freedom has been, some issue like with the mailbox or in need of like maybe a passport, or a visa, to walk through the driveway, maybe just like, go to the mailbox, I don't know if that's like constitutionally medieval periodic error that would like be an accusation of, granting, the distribution, maybe identifying an inadequacy that might be in need of amending factors, managing like, is like really an issue, okay? So in any case, I'm trying to get set up to where I can just go through it and choose how many music videos as a standard reference and in a thorough attempt to eliminate and minimize a lot of time of actual audio auditioning and recording if that need be, and prep to give every potential musician that truthfully, I mean, it's going to be a Christian, I like saying a Christian progressive heavy metal hard pop punk rock, simply because, I mean, normally it's not a genre that like categorizes it all, progressive, Christian progressive hard rock. Truthfully, I mean, there is, segregating factors that identify, distinguishable difference between, but really, I want to really do it all, and maybe throw in some Southern rock every now and then, whatever, but predominantly, I want to be able to do virtually every genre of like soft, hard, Christian progressive, heavy metal, hard pop, punk rock, and predominantly that there is predominantly the sound that will have a combination of like all the versatility throughout the years. I really truthfully have. Truthfully, I mean, really, even when I didn't have my drums and there were other issues involved when having my drums was like a non-stop deal. But like even my air drums, I mean, seriously, I mean, I take it so seriously, right? Even with my air drums, when I didn't have my drums, I mean, seriously, I mean, going through the motions, twirling my sticks and chiming, I mean, really, seriously, I mean, seriously, it's serious as it gets, really. So anyway, I never really stopped, and it really got to a point after a certain amount of years of like practicing. I mean, all it really took is me just listening to other people's music and coordinate maybe some range and versatility of my preference of what I wouldn't necessarily call it an image identifying, although identifying, yes, truthfully so. There's a lot of talk that I've heard previously, and how true maybe it is or is not about the copyright. Somewhere in my mind, as far as entertainment law goes, thoroughly the issue about copyright or trademark. If it's not necessarily infringement on rights to the extent, it's like I had to talk to my father. It seems like bands that like seem to have faded away or their career came to a dramatic end. Yet there's like tribute bands that like do that. I was talking to my father. It's kind of like I was telling him, it seems like bands that like have like either retired or like faded away or lost the popularity, if you want to call it that, or um, the charts. I mean, truthfully, the predominantly the music I listen to is probably, I mean, it anyway. The charts, that's fine, great, and all and dandy. That may be like early teen years. But a lot of the music that radio stations play, try to minimize what I think should like be at least to 7 to 8 minute range on like one song, which is normally like categorized anywhere from like 3 to maybe, if anyone's lucky, with some radio stations, a format that dictates getting in as many songs and maybe putting a limit that might be less than maybe 4.5 minutes. So somewhere in between 3 to 4.5 minutes is predominantly what most stations used to do. How true that is now, I'm not really paying attention because like I get into the other stuff that goes beyond really the normal standard of getting as many in and like creating an audience during a specific time when people like are on their way to work or home from work or to and from school or whatever the case may be, or what the weekend managing factors or on the way to a football, baseball game, or even a concert or whatever the case may be, or what vacation or holidays would dictate as far as advertising as compared to actual airtime of actual what's like actually happening as a current affair, not necessarily a historic classic type of a format that some radios, and truthfully, still, really truthfully, based upon my experience, I mean, I listen to a lot of songs, I mean, all the time, and still, predominantly, as far as the Christian rock goes, I mean, what I was looking for in the sound with Christian rock back in the 80s, I mean, I really didn't quite find, I just didn't know where to look. Maybe it was just like a Houston area thing that what I'm hearing now that sounds like it was available back then. I mean, I've looked in some of the bands, I mean, I heard about, but the sound and the songs that were like suggested as being available back then, I didn't really find, although now that like I'm really getting into a lot of stuff that was like suggested as available in the 80s, as far as like Christian rock or contemporary in a Christian sense. I mean, predominantly my background is seriously a hard rock, really. Not really thrash, but because it's this sound. I mean, I like the hardest stuff known to mankind as far as my style. I mean, I picked that because I mean, to me, I mean, basic stuff. I mean, that might be good for like maybe like learning how to maybe even hold the drumstick or whatever the case may be. But I like really getting into it. So I mean, most people that decide that when they're going to like really be the best at it, I mean, they go far beyond. Some people are actually fortunate enough to be born into the actual formal training as compared to actually teaching themselves by listening and choosing their preference. If you want to call it like identifying or whatever the case may be, how impressionable teens are with their music and television and all that stuff. I mean, I chose that hard rock kind of thing because I mean, to me that's just the sound. And still to this day, I mean, they are still truthfully leaders to this very day, as archived as it may seem, or some royalty issue that seems to be whether 50 years will extend beyond 50 years of royalties of like sales, merchandise, and even airtime, or what dictates what airtime means, if that really reflects uh-huh. I don't know how I would characterize it as a sales, as far as whether what would be on the chart as an archive division, not necessarily the actual like current situation. So anyway, beyond that point, uh, a lot of stuff that I listen to is like like the best and like hardest stuff known to mankind. I mean, everyone has their 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 strengths, their weaknesses, or preferences that might distinguish whether if a strength or weakness is like only based upon whether it's a preference, and if the preference is a demanded standard, or disregarded as well. The insignificance of maybe it just doesn't sound as good. Maybe no matter how complex it is, I've heard a lot of complex progressive music that it just doesn't. Truthfully, Dream Theater is like some of the best that progressive in that sense. And now there's the Christian progressive rock band Effector that really I'm kind of like, hey, finally, seriously. And Daniel Foss is like seriously impressive. And as far as the lead guitarist, which sounds, I don't like comparing. I've learned that really comparing other people, but although immediately identifying, like with just making a music video type of standard reference as a portfolio, only in the sense of like, maybe not necessarily advertisement for infringement upon rights or royalties or any claim of breach of copyright or defamation. That's not the intent, or copying, or attempting any disregarding factors that might suggest formulating a need for litigation, because that's truthfully not my intent at all. It's just a quick reference that normally, like even tribute bands, I mean, it's obvious that most people that taught themselves or just know that in that type of tenor would automatically identify with that style terminology as far as actual lingo, if you want to call it lingo, or actual formal training identifying each character reference. Anywhere from like a quarter to a whole note, flat, sharp, or whatever the case may be. I've heard that a lot of form of training that's not necessarily limited to based upon experience only, and throughout gaining the formal terminology, or the principle of comparable, actually writing sheet music involved with the instrument, as compared to like learning by ear and just like learning from the feel and touch. I mean, phenomenally, I've seen both, and I guess it really depends on how many years and the availability of maintaining the quality and consistency in that direction with or without formal training, or not necessarily the word training, but education formatted based upon the practice required to meet the standards to go beyond the classroom with terminology, as compared to like training or self-taught type of application that might dictate lingo that would only be suggested in the geographical areas available, not necessarily the structured degree, but any, I don't want to go off on all that all day, but likewise, I've heard that based upon my experience with a lot of musicians at that level, whether they have formal training or not, I mean, it ultimately gets to spending time with the instrument, lead guitar, or what style of lead or rhythm, or a combination of, of rhythm and lead guitar player, or even the vocal range or octave scale that would maybe dictate whether a C would be the ultimate standard, ultimately starting in a C octave or whatever C scale, as compared to if it's going to be broken up, or how the timing will be, if it's going to be calculated basically by syllables of lyrics, if you want to call it lyrics, or chosen words that would thoroughly segregate the level of what the information means as far as word. But it's amazing that sometimes realizing that syllables and even apostrophes, it's almost like with proper English numerical composition, realizing that when music's involved, if there were not the slang, or if you want to call it apostrophes, or slang that would actually, I mean, if there was not music, I mean, I'm assuming almost that there would not be a need for any apostrophes as far as timekeeping goes, to combine and compress meaning of two, maybe even the impression of a knowing. Anyway, getting back into it. So as far as the structure of what I see to have what the availability they may present as available in the immediate Pearland, Texas area, as far as like the talent and structure or the image and that they themselves, like I want to project a very strong, not traditional, truthfully at all, truthfully so, and truthfully not limited to in any kind of way, a Christian progressive heavy metal hard pop punk rock band that gets into like everything about the structure of biblical terminology as well as geographics, alphanumerics, law. I mean, a huge amount of law. I mean, it's ridiculous that the most perception of people's idea of what law only suggests is only what they see on normally the news, which is normally criminal law. It's ridiculous almost to think that sometimes it's ridiculous, seriously, to limit like everything law is about and only seeing that. But in such a sense that that's as apparent as obviously as it gets with certain factors of like K television and Christianity. I mean, I've seen my mother. She was like so seriously into like Christianity and the King James Version Bible. I mean, she knew it better than like many preachers I've heard. Although like Joseph Prince and Joel Osteen and Robert Morris, in Liberty University. Actually, I've heard a lot of good content from Liberty University. I'm not real sure where they are, but I've heard very good presentations as far as that gets in more into the Christian science, not necessarily traditional. A traditional like a family generational type of Sunday going on church on Sunday kind of like thing. It's structured in seriously to a Christian science that like really goes far beyond and considers all applications in reality, and not necessarily a prehistoric archive division. It's kind of like really seriously. So ultimately gets into the degree level of where I'm going with this band. As far as like lyrics, because a lot of the lyrics that like I've really heard are so structured and kind of really deviate from the direction of like a degree plan or a structure of what professional relations is. A lot of the rock songs, I mean, it's not really, an insult, but, truthfully, people do not really realize, what they listen to, or it kind of like alters and deviates, it's kind of like entertaining yourself beyond comprehensible reasoning that actually accomplishing another day of like thinking everything is funny when like there's an automated generation of like artificial audience laughing. And it's like I don't know if anyone's ever like watched comedies and like there's like nothing really funny about it, but all of a sudden the audience like in the background it's like automated audience and like it's kind of like it's like, did you ever catch yourself laughing like for absolutely no apparent reason? It's kind of like, why am I laughing? Just because come on, really. So, I mean, really, it's kind of like artificial idiocracy about what people see, identifying with the imagery of what television projects as far as public television, which ultimately, in my mind, isn't limited to K television or any structured military function that would even suggest what K-band or any reference to, I don't know how I would say, intellectually designated as a, say, how would I phrase this? Pronoun interjection per se, verbatim. It's almost like a third party de facto issue of like corporate venue of some ergonomic reality of compatibility, whether the participation would like somewhere in my mind that simulates some similarities of Sarbanes and Oxley financial instrument and SOX compliance that would be almost like suggested as a grandfather of like Federal Communications Commission and cooperation with federal, state, and local authorities, kind of like it's ridiculously something. It's kind of like is there like any reality or the accusation like are like you really awake? So and I want to have that consciousness about every aspect of what distributing information to an audience and reflect the widest audience with such a level that it's not entertaining for the mere sake of fun, but a very entertaining, educational, meaningful beyond certain factors that have been thoroughly like a geographic issue, like really that many people grow up in that thoroughly alter and take their lives in a different direction, and it has an impact in such a way that it's almost like deciding if liquidable equity is maintained as an asset, as a reserve, or as if it's disregarded as either overabundant amount that suggests that the quality of an overabundant amount is disregarded as insignificant, as if that would maintain any level of application, or if you want to even call it a tax bracket or annuity or value of, like, if you want to call it monetary issues that would reflect whether if currency is really truthfully even money at all, truthfully, or a circuit that would dissipate any non-negotiable, non-transferable itemization as maybe an insignificant disregard of reality itself, or a potential as not degreed or have earned the right to gain uh, the credit as compared to the deduction, and all that. So I mean, I'm very conscious about terminology and what's available as far as a publisher's version and what degree level means to the general public as compared to many factors of accomplishing a level of like information that's in my mind is simply and easily whether if the word would even constitute the error of like thinking that affording the luxury is like knowing about it or not knowing about it or having access to a whole different way of entertaining a person or an entire generation of a family, and whether if the family, truthfully, in my mind, somewhere in the Vernon State of Texas statutes annotated the color code of being the black. In my mind, space exploration, even beyond the front lines of the beachfront, evolving beyond, the whale thing, the Prince of Wales and that caviar, right? Yeah, like there's a menu come with a map thing, identifying family law like Vernon State of Texas statutes annotated, like really ultimately means that black dot like all around the entire world to me, right? So anyway, so it's kind of like, is it really any reality in family law that goes beyond any accusation of a religious venue? And if so, I mean, is that like an archive division of like some anthropological archaeology? Is there like a new finding? Is there like some subterranean issue, in General Motors and stationary engineers that constitute what a publisher's version is to like, a lifestyle, I mean, like, are you for real? Like, are you like alive today, or do like, are you just like living for like yesterday kind of thing? So anyway, so there's like a consciousness about the degree level that I want to project and distribute this information, and as well as any musician that personally I hope will be finding, an agreement to the effect of like what a Christian progressive heavy metal hard pop rock band would project as a today and for the future, not necessarily a memorialized historic archive division that would only reflect just a conscious awareness of and the accusation of that fact of something back then, not necessarily a reality of what today is. And truthfully, that's what I want to make sure that everything, when I get into the Christian progressive heavy metal hard pop rock, that it will project the now and the future, and not limited to seriously every aspect of what today's world and universe is as far as like many factors of I don't like really calling it intelligence as to the effect of alphanumeric suggesting the opposite, or truthfully maybe at some point possibly if being recognized as that might necessarily be the direction or the accusation of being categorized as that in an attempt, or maybe a new direction that might present boundaries or barriers that might reflect, hey, it's like, shouldn't you done that like 30, 40 years ago, maybe 20 years, like oh my god, yeah, like a day is 1,000 years to God, right? Oh my god, has a whole new meaning, right? Okay, anyway, so in any case, yeah, so truthfully, so I want to keep that part about it in mind as far as like the musicians and singers and lead singers that I want to choose, as far as the direction, the intent, of mainstay and duration, or the goal, or if it's like a geographical issue or an immediate area issue, or a venue issue, or a Federal Reserve Bank issue, or annuities, or investment issue, or time issue. Truthfully, I mean, I've done this for like myself, because I love it. I mean, my grandmother, seriously, with just a pair of spoons and pots and pans when I was like in diapers, has had me going, and after that some bongos and some maracas, yeah. But seriously, yeah, seriously, that's how impressionable she was, and thoroughly, my grandmother seriously has given me truthfully some of the best years of my life, which is, just that. It has kept me going nonstop since then. And truthfully, there's been things about it, but truthfully so, and it's something I love doing. I mean, really, I mean, baseball is likewise the same, but um, as far as practice goes, I mean, hey, it's always been music and audio production and the sound and the perfection, the profession, and the direction. So I mean, seriously, I mean, as far as musicians that and singers and lead singers and equipment as far as that goes, I mean, there's not necessarily a limitation of demanded standards to meet a requirement or so lax and granted some flexibility that actual participation and discipline, direction in composing and arranging and making the sound for a Christian progressive heavy metal hard pop punk rock or deviate somewhere in between all that and maybe focused in that one direction of the acronym, if you want to call it that, of that categorization. Because really, truthfully, I want to cover virtually every type of sound um, in a very syncopated, progressive sense, in alternating tempo or whatever the case may be, to give the style a new added perception of categorizing, like having an audience say, "Hey, wow, I never heard it or seen it done like that before." And truthfully, that's the type of music and audio production and music videos that truthfully I like doing, because I mean, seriously, it's been like a long time getting to this point, and seriously, it shouldn't have been, and truthfully, it has been, irregardless. So, I mean, having any other delay, I mean, it's like really, it doesn't need to be anything other than not having that is really all it needs to be, and getting in that direction of serious, like, I wouldn't necessarily call it commitment for the mere sake of being burdened by obligation or the freedom of, like, everyone involved having that luxury of like free time and designation and not stressed with a schedule. And truthfully, when personally I do get involved, I mean, it's like seriously, when I decided like that I was going to take it, I mean, extremely as serious as I could, no matter what kind of deal. I mean, it was like simply, 2.5, 3 days and nights nonstop on the weekends, back to my teens, in the early years of even before, truthfully, high school. But in any case, yeah. I mean, and over the years, I mean, I mean, it normally would range in easy 4 to 6, sometimes 8 hours, depending if work was uh, demanded, participating schedule or whatever the case may be. But yeah, right now, it's kind of like that's really truthfully all I'm really concerned about is getting my heart and lungs back in shape and my vocals. I mean, there shouldn't really be an issue, but unfortunately, I mean, there really shouldn't be, and really, seriously, it's as simple as you get. There shouldn't be like an air quality issue, and there's not. So I mean, hey, what's the deal, So in any case, my health is like a big deal. It's kind of like I never imagined being a little bit overweight, and truthfully, I'm overweight more than so. So exercise is like a real big deal to me, and it's kind of like not as easily as my God, I mean, God, I used to jog like, an easy 5 to like 15, 16 miles, like sometimes like without a problem, So, I mean, I enjoy riding my bicycle. So anyway, and the drums is a good workout too, but truthfully, I mean, it's not really comparable to even jogging. Truthfully not. It's all a good workout to me. Different application for different, cardiovascular or whatever the case may be, in circulation, all that stuff. So, yeah, so I mean, I'm trying to, get everything coordinated and, create a perfect condition to where soundproofing and maybe, really seriously, a real, very nice commercial building for like a series of every applicable, music video, audio production, before, during live concerts and studio recording and music video settings and, get into it and, take it, and get into it and really seriously just jump right into it and just do it, So that's the direction I'm going in. I'm going to look at this. I've been talking now pretty close to like 30 minutes now, so probably I won't present this much information, but I'm going to like compress it. I'm just like talking to kind of get a visual of what it sounds and looks like right now with the lighting. If I'm going to like walk around, move around, or whatever the case may be, and formulate some like discipline, structured, and objective to the, not necessarily the word objective. I mean, I might sound like a total degree idiot to suggest objective would present maybe an unidentified prejudice that might not be recognized consciously as a total disregard and insignificant level of education. Oh my God! Right? Yeah. Okay. Right. Okay. Some degree of genius. Right. You mean you believe that in the classroom and ejected? Boy, they're like, you're in the right class, man. Are you sure you're in the right place, man? The right university? Hey, really? So anyway, yeah, for real, right? Anyway, so in any case, yeah, it's going on 30 minutes and like 15 seconds. So I'm gonna just watch this and see if I want to do any more tonight or whatever the case may be. I probably will, but I'm gonna take a break and whatever. I'll be back in a minute after I check this out. Look at it.